everything that we want always comes back to how we want to feel. So I started to really ask people, all right, you want this more thing. What is it that you really want to feel? And again, it was something along the lines of excited intensity or intense excitement. And so I started to take a deeper dive into what I know about how to create intense excitement sexually, emotionally, physically, erotically, without needing external stimulation. And that's sex magic.
This is episode number 664 with Dr. Laura Berman. I'm so excited to have her on the podcast. I've been a huge fan of hers for so many years. And we're going to be talking about her upcoming new book. It's called Sex Magic. And we're talking about how to deepen your connection, the secrets to emotional and physical intimacy. It's going to be a juicy conversation, and trigger warning, we're going to be talking about sex a lot. So you might want to get the little kids out of the room. Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Weiner. Welcome back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. And to support you on your journey to lasting love, I have written 3 books. Becoming a Woman of Value. This is a guide to owning your value and your self-worth. And then the second book is called Choice Points in Dating. This is a step-by-step guide to the dating process and Love at Last. True stories of people who found lasting love later in life. All of these books are available on Amazon for Kindle, paperback, and Audible. Before I bring on Dr. Laura, I want to invite you to join my Facebook group. It's called Your Last First Date. And this is a very supportive, very positive place, which is rare in the world of Facebook groups. So join us if you're a woman over 40, join us at Your Last First Date on Facebook. And now for my guest, Dr. Laura Berman. She is a columnist for USA Today and a New York Times bestselling author who has written 9 books. That's a lot of books. She currently hosts the popular Love and Sex Advice podcast, The Language of Love. In addition to her regular appearances in daytime and news media, Dr. Berman was also the sex, love, and relationship expert on The Oprah Show. And she has starred in 4 TV series, including 2 on the OWN network and 1 on Showtime. Dr. Laura Berman, I am so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
I'm so glad to be here.
Let's first talk about why you wrote Sex Magic. Like, what were you hoping for? You've written so many books about sex.
I have. This is my 10th book, and 8 of the 9 books I wrote before this were about sex. My last book also included sex, but it was mostly about love. And I thought, honestly, that I had said everything I needed to say about sex in those 8 books. And in many ways I had, but what I was finding and have always found throughout, I've been doing this for 30 years, is that wherever I went, people were always asking me, how do you, these themes around, how do you get more out of your sex life? How do you spice things up? How do you take it to the next level? How do you have better orgasms? And I would tell them, tips, tools, toys, role plays, fantasies, all of that. I believe in all of that. That's what my first 8 books were about. Communication and strategies and techniques and removing the roadblocks to good sex and the mind and the body and the relationship stuff and the emotional stuff and all of that. But what I was finding is people were coming back to me for more and more and more. And especially interestingly, since the pandemic, this is a weird series of subtle events that I watched happen. But basically, first of all, everyone was stuck inside. So all their stuff started to come up, right? So all those things that we've been in denial about on our hamster wheel of craziness in our lives suddenly all stopped, and we couldn't be distracted anymore. And so lots of people were having things come up where they were really having an emotional reckoning, either inside themselves or in their relationship. And Pornhub went free. And that is when I started to notice a real shift. Now, my entire career, and I still feel this way, I am not anti-porn. I think historically, I would have always said unequivocally, there is a place, if you are interested in porn, there's a way to use it in a healthy way in your relationship. But what I've seen happen, especially with the unfettered, insane amount of content and access available, is that it's really started to shift the way people were showing up sexually. And we can put a pin in that and come back to how that
Mhm.
is if you want. But what I started to see is that people were getting addicted essentially to dopamine, which is really what we're looking for when we're looking to spice things up. Because in the beginning of a sexual relationship, at least, your dopamine centers of your brain are firing like crazy. Those are the addiction centers of the brain. And then you move into from infatuation to attachment as you get to know someone and become more secure in your connection. And that's often when the quote unquote spice and excitement starts to fade. And so what I've seen is that people are turning to porn, they're turning to open relationships. They're saying, I'm just not made for monogamy. They're wanting to have threesomes. And in the dating world, there's all of this heightened, I gotta choke, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Once again, back to the porn. We can come back to that, why that's happening. But what I started seeing is that we're looking for something. And for me, in my work, it always comes back, everything that we want always comes back to how we want to feel, right? So you want that new car because of how you're going to feel driving it or having it in your driveway. You want the new job, you want that partner, because you want to feel a certain way. So I started to really ask people, all right, you want this more thing. What is it that you really want to feel? And again, it was something along the lines of excited intensity or intense excitement. And so I started to take a deeper dive into what I know about how to create intense excitement sexually, emotionally, physically, erotically, without needing external stimulation. And that's sex magic. That was a very long answer.
Well, it's a good answer because it explains a lot. I think that you're talking about people's need for dopamine. You're talking about the pandemic, and I've seen so many couples who almost got divorced during the pandemic. So I totally get it.
Yeah.
And because you have to face each other, and so many couples just go through life to get along, and they stop having sex, or they have boring sex or sex just to keep from having fights, the kindness sex. And there's a bigger
sex.
You're right. There's a bigger menu for sex. And when you turn to these things like Pornhub for the intense excitement, it's a very different experience than what you talk about in this book, which it's very much aligned with the way that I coach people, because it really starts with you. It starts with your body. It starts with how you want to feel in a relationship. People go out looking for relationships and they have no idea what a real healthy relationship feels like. They know what romance feels like. They know what fairy tales feel like. But a real relationship is so much deeper than just those beginning feelings that we have when we first meet.
Yeah, and what's so exciting to me about sex magic is that you can have more intense excitement than you ever had in a brand new, can't get enough of you, going at it all the time relationship, because it incorporates in authenticity, vulnerability, your body's energetic frequencies. It's just so unbelievably powerful, both in the emotional and the physical sense. But, I have at the top of my website, on the homepage, I have this quiz that I just keep up there permanently called what do I really want, or what do I really want to feel in love? Because to me, that's the starting point. And I created this quiz to help people, whether you're single or in a relationship, because, that's what once again, it all comes down to. If I were waking up next to my ideal partner every day, who had all these qualities and characteristics that I've already listed out, right? Or my partner was showing up for me the way I most wanted them to, how would I feel? And everyone is a little different. For one person, it may be cherished and safe. For another person, it may be playful and adventurous. For another person, it may be passionate. We're all different, and there are lots of reasons underneath the difference. But it's so crucial to get clear on that, especially if you're single, because if you're single, there are metaphysical reasons for this we can get into. I don't know how open your audience is to that, but even just on the practical reasons, when you're clear on how you want to feel in love and what that feeling feels like in your body and in your mind. So let's say you want to be adventurous. You want a partner with whom you feel the sense of adventurousness and playfulness, let's say, and you are spending your day-to-day life not only attuning to what it feels like to feel playful and adventurous, but seeking opportunities that may have nothing to do with love. You're walking down the street, you see a swing set in a playground, and you decide to stop for 3 minutes and hop on and swing back and forth and just be playful, right? The more you're in the energy of playfulness, two things happen. One, you're getting attuned to how it feels. So when you're out there dating, am I feeling that same feeling with this person, right? And you're also attuning your mind. Is this person someone who's playful by nature? Do they make jokes? Do they when we're walking home from a date, do they jump on the swing set? You're starting to attune to those qualities. But even energetically, you're holding the energetic frequency of playfulness, and this has been shown. I go way into the weeds of the science behind this in my last book, Quantum Love. But it's actually been shown in quantum physics that we are, and through all kinds of fascinating scientific experiments, that our bodies hold an energetic frequency, and we're like human tuning forks. We match each other. So when we're in 51% of the time in the energy of playfulness, even if we're at work and doing something serious, we can still hold that energy, right? We're actually attracting in people, romantic partners, friends, experiences that match that. So it becomes a really beautiful dating tool.
I love that. And I think it's such an important thing to bring up because most people focus on things that don't matter, or they wonder why like that person that they're with has some of the qualities that they really are attracted to, but they don't feel good with them.
Yeah.
Like their needs are not met. Their conversations are kind of dead. And it's not enough just to have attraction or to feel that somebody chose you, which is enough for a lot of people.
Yes.
And really trips people up. Like I had somebody email me the other day and she said, this old boyfriend of mine wants to get back together and I just don't see a relationship. Why am I so picky? And I said, you're not too picky. This is not the right relationship for you. It was for him maybe, but not for you. And then you have to understand why. So that playfulness thing, that really touches my heart because that's such an important part of me and my life. And I remember even my high school boyfriend, we went to a playground together and we went on the swings and it was special. And it doesn't have to be like you go on this vacation that's really expensive. It's this sense of adventure could be so many things. So I like how you brought it down to a day-to-day kind of experience, which I think is really important.
Yeah. And it could be anything. Like I said, playful, whatever it is you want to feel. I think that's the first step. And in sex magic, I do spend a lot of time because I'm a therapist and I'm a trauma-informed therapist. I feel like it's, what you're describing, even with wanting to be chosen, right? That's so, I wouldn't say universal, but almost universal, so common in so many of us, especially those of us who haven't yet done real healing work on our emotional wounds and traumas. And that by trauma, I don't mean you were seriously abused or abandoned or anything. It could be all of these subtle, smaller ways in which our needs weren't validated or important, or we felt emotionally rejected or lack of acceptance or no room for us emotionally or to have any emotional support or co-regulation from our parents growing up. That there's this inherent sense of rejection and I'm not good enoughness that then makes us so susceptible to settling or falling into these trauma bonds with people because they choose us, or because they match the criteria, on a 3D level that we want. They have a good job and they're smart and they want a family, or they have their quality, have these qualities on a checklist. Not that having a shared vision of the future and same values and attraction isn't important. But I spend a lot of time in Sex Magic helping explain what the ways in which, what we call the little T traumas, not the big T traumas, can affect our open-heartedness, our ability to be vulnerable, our sexual experience in a million different ways, and how to move through and beyond that, how to heal that. So that was really important to me to include in the book, because you have to kind of remove those blocks in order to really have the fullest sexual experience.
I totally wholeheartedly agree. In fact, I started a 12-week program last night with a group, and the first step was family blueprint. It was how was love regarded in your family? How was marriage regarded? How were you regarded? What were your feelings heard and valued? And all the things that lead to us choosing partners who may not be good for us, because we're trying to fill that void until we do the healing. Such an important piece. And to me, it's a foundational piece that a lot of people don't do. And then they wonder, if somebody tells them, just flirt better. And that's not the answer. So in your book, you invite people to invite their physical self to their day. I love that term. So explain what you mean by that and how people can connect more deeply to their body's energy.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I was this way too many years ago until I started doing my own work. I think most of us are walking through the world disembodied. We especially, on our busy lives and all the distractions, and now with social media, I was just talking to someone the other day and they said, do you remember when we used to wait for the bus and just wait? Right? Or when we made a poop and we actually just sat on the toilet and made the poop, right? Like now we're always on our phones, looking down and scrolling or texting or doing our minds are always busy, or we aren't fully in our bodies. We're not even really aware of what we're feeling, and inside of ourselves sensorily. And it's such a huge part of the sexual experience of sensuality is being attuned to the senses. And from so that's just on the practical sense. So you can have the fullest sexual experience, but from a sex magic place, you're really attuning to these subtle sensations. And for instance, you're pulling, like, let's say with arousal and orgasm, you're having a strong sense of sensation in your genital region, right? Which most of us do. And it's usually just localized to that area. With sex magic, you're learning how to pull that energy up through your entire body and even out the top of your head for literal mind-blowing orgasms or just full body sensual and sexual experience. But it starts by getting back into your body consciously so that your awareness can attune to those subtle sensations. And just if you think about it, like that drive you do every day to work or to the gym or whatever, half the time you get there and you don't even remember driving there because we're just on rote, in so many ways in our life, we're on automatic pilot or we're distracted by a million things. And so what you're referring to is one of the things that I really ask people to do from the get-go is to start coming back into their bodies. And I teach them ways to kind of ground with a quick and easy meditation to come back into their bodies, but also to begin to really take a moment, even several times a day, just a moment to tune into all of your senses. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? Or even take a moment when you're making dinner or when you're eating a piece of fruit to just like stop, put down your phone and just really employ every single sense in peeling that orange, what it feels like, what it smells like, what it looks like, the bright colors and the squirt of juice and how it feels in your mouth when you take a bite, and put all of your conscious awareness just for a moment on those sensations. As you start training your mind and body that way, it has major payoff in a million ways because you're much more present in your life and life gets a lot juicier and better. But sexually, it has huge payoff.
Yeah, I took a course in what's called positive intelligence. I don't know if you've heard of this. Part of the program is doing these mindfulness exercises throughout your day, and there are little alarms that go off, and you do like a 2-minute thing, and it trains the mind and the body to stop and to connect and to be mindful in so many different ways. And I love taking the course because it was a great reminder to do a visual exercise or a sensory exercise, or just putting your feet on the floor. Like, I'm not wearing shoes right now. I like touching the ground with my toes. I don't like wearing shoes. And going outside, going out and standing on the grass can be incredibly grounding. And so just putting your phone down and stopping and feeling and sensing, I love it. And when you do that, you can then bring that to your erotic life. So let's go there.
Yes.
And so how can couples build their erotic energy?
Well, like we said, you're attuning to it, and you're starting. I have so many exercises in the book, and all of them, by the way, are designed for singles. And also, I highly recommend doing them on your own first, because once we're with a partner, even if it's a partner of 30 years, you're distracted, you're attending to them as well as yourself. There's more distractions, right? And when you're first learning to do these techniques, they're actually not hard, but they require some focus at first until you kind of get some practice. So that's the thing. One of the things I love about the book is that you can do these things even if you're single. In fact, have amazing, mind-blowing sex with yourself as you're single. And then as you start to date and want to be sexual with someone else, you can teach them. And if you're in a relationship, I start out the book like how to attune to your own body's energy, how to build desire and arousal energetically. I've written a million books about how to do that practically, but how to do that through these exercises in a really beautiful way. And then how to do that between the two of you. So it starts off like really helping you attune to not only grounding your energy in some of the ways you referred to, but to start practicing moving it up through your body. Like I was saying, even through self-stimulation. And I described to you how to do that with your breath and your Kegel muscles, which are the muscles that you use to stop the flow of urine and hold up your whole pelvic floor. But when you use that, it kind of propels the sensation up. And so Kegels, breath, and visualization, you just maybe at first are pulling the sensation up from, your clitoris and labia if you're a woman, or penis if you're someone with a penis, and you're pulling it up to your belly button, right? And then dropping it back down, and then pulling it up to your belly button and dropping it back down. And then maybe next you pull it up to the center of your chest. I talk about the energy centers in the body, the chakras, but you could just use it as location if you don't want to think about the chakras. But I teach people how to sort of build sensuality into their daily life, start to play with the energy and how to move it through you, start to attune to how you feel energetically when you're around different situations and different people. And then we get into, okay, so now how do you start creating more sensual energy between the two of you? How do you now learn to circle energy between the arousal energy between you and your partner? Like you can create actually a circle between your heart and your genitals where the arousal is actually circling between the two of you. And there's tons of exercises in there for building more emotional intimacy between the two of you as well.
Yeah, I find that so many people just don't attend to intimacy on any level. Yeah. And as Esther Perel says, your foreplay starts at the end of the last orgasm. And I think so many people are like, oh, I want to have sex now, so let's just get into it. And I think they forget about that whole part of connecting, building, taking care of yourself. And there was an exercise that I read in the book about the locking of the different parts of
the triple lock.
Yeah, the triple lock. I love that. I was practicing that.
Yeah. How'd you like it?
I liked it a lot. I think it's really interesting. I saw a pelvic floor specialist last year, and she taught me how to do Kegels correctly, and really helped. And I think a lot of people don't even know what their pelvic floor is. And so, finding out and learning how to use your body in new ways Yeah. So you can start alone and then build with a partner if you don't have a partner yet. And then if you do have a partner, to start creating these wonderful connections. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/last first date to learn more and claim this offer. You also say that we can use sex as a tool to manifest our dreams. Can you explain that?
That's one of the coolest parts to me. Okay, so we'll go into the weeds a teeny bit, but basically, this process of sex magic is believed to have started with the Egyptians, but the first people who started really writing about it were in the 1800s. And there's all of these kind of very cryptic, ancient, old texts of sex magicists and all kinds of texts about how to use sex to create things you want to create, to essentially manifest. So I am a big believer in the law of attraction, manifestation, whatever you want to call it. And I got really into the science underneath it. That was really the premise of my last book, Quantum Love, is how to use your body's energetic frequency to actually create the love life you want, whether it's calling in a partner or having your partner show up to you differently. And it's literally a Jedi mind trick for your relationship that I discovered accidentally and then went all the way down the rabbit hole, learned it for myself, and then started teaching it to my clients and put a system together and eventually wrote the book. And so with sex, all right, so let's just start here. Our bodies, even though we seem solid, are pure vibrating energy. If we were to look at ourselves through an atomic microscope at the smallest atomic level, we are not solid. We are pure vibrating energy. And our bodies hold an energetic frequency that is constantly shifting and changing based on many different factors, but mostly where our conscious and unconscious thoughts and feelings and the energy that we're around, depending on how, practically speaking, how codependent we are or how much of a people pleaser we are, we will tend to match the frequency of others. This is all unconscious, obviously. Our bodies will literally match the energy of others until we learn to literally hold our own frequency, right? And so what I teach in Quantum Love is all the science of how that works and how it's actually the science underneath what we know as manifesting or the law of attraction. Because let's say I want, the classic examples, I want $1 million. So I'm going to write myself a check for $1 million and I have $1 million, right? That's really the key to manifesting, is not just stating your intention, but moving your body's energy into he, she, they who already has that thing. So if it were $1 million, I am having the feeling, kind of like I was talking about playfulness, I am having the feeling inside my body, the excitement, the anticipation, the oh my goshness of she who already has $1 million. And there's a system for moving your body. It's pretty straightforward. And I teach it in Quantum Love. I can summarize it for you here in a second if you want, but you basically move your body into the state of the person who has that thing that you're wanting to manifest. What that does, and I get into all the science in that book, Quantum Love, what that does is actually supercharge your intention, because in the quantum field, in the energetic field in which we all live, all potentials exist. For instance, and this has all been scientifically shown in the past 150 years, quantum physicists don't do experiments where they are in the room with the experiment. They do it in a vacuum or in a totally different building, because their conscious and unconscious expectations or even desires of how the outcome is going to be will create the outcome on the atomic level. So That's what's happening inside ourselves. So we're constantly unconsciously manifesting our reality without realizing it. What people who practice the law of intention, of attraction or manifestation will teach you is that when you really get intentional about what you want to create and you match your body's frequency to that, that's when the magic happens. Now, the higher your energetic frequency, think of it as your old-fashioned radio dial. You have the station or the energy frequency you're on, and you have the volume, how intense it is, right? And so there's been all this fascinating research, and I summarize it in Sex Magic, but go deep into it in Quantum Love, is that they've actually been able to calibrate the energetic frequency that our bodies hold in different emotional states. The lowest energetic frequency our body will hold or does hold is shame. And then it goes to guilt, anger, resentment, all the way up the scale. And then the highest energetic state our body can hold is actually bliss. The closest to that energetic state we can get is high sexual arousal and orgasm. That actually puts us into the highest frequency the body can hold. Okay, so I'm getting to the magic part. So the higher our energetic frequency, the more we're manifesting that which we want to create. So the more, for instance, I always say, if you can hold the energetic state of even curiosity and openness, much less love, forgiveness, excitement, curiosity, all those things in the kind of higher frequencies, if you can hold any or all of those states, even just curiosity and openness, 51% of the time, your entire life will change for the better. But if you want to create something or manifest something, and this is what they were writing about in the 1800s, if you have an intention, and I explained to you exactly how they learned to do it and how it works in Sex Magic. But if you create an intention, it can be anything, a new job, a partner, a best-selling book, whatever, a baby, whatever it is you want to create, and you hold that intention through arousal and orgasm, you are supercharging it into the quantum field with your high arousal / orgasm state. Does that explain it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure there will be people who say, what? Mm-hmm. But I do believe that I believe in this stuff. I mean, I think that the way that you explain it, sometimes people will explain the law of attraction in a way that's very, to me, not real and not and leaves out a bunch of the important things. And the way that you explained it is easy to understand. I think that the way that I see it also is that there are so many people who say, why do bad things always happen to me? Those kinds of people, or why do I keep just attracting all the wrong people? And they don't realize that there is a frequency there and that there are so many wonderful people right next to those horrible people that you're attracting into your life that you're missing, that you're not even seeing often.
You aren't, because we can only perceive people, things, anything that are vibrating in harmony with our frequencies. So the only reason you and I can see each other on this Zoom, and the only reason everyone listening right now or watching right now can hear or watch us, is because we are all vibrating at a harmonic frequency. We are literally taking into our brains every millisecond 40 billion bits of information, 40 billion, but we are only consciously processing 2,000 of them. So if you keep attracting jerks or people who cheat on you or whatever, there are practical reasons for that. Like maybe there's a trauma bond at play and other things, but on an energetic level, this doesn't mean it's your fault, but you are unintentionally a frequency match to those people. So even just on a practical sense, I've said my whole 30-year career that you will attract someone into your life that is at the same level of emotional health that you are, more or less, within that range, right? And the more healthy you get, the healthier people you're going to be attracted to and are going to be attracted to you for the long haul, right? So that's always been true. But I learned over the past 10 to 15 years that there's an energetic piece to this, that when you do that healing work, when you move yourself and can live in those higher frequency states, everything in your life changes for the better, including the people who are showing up and who you notice and who are in harmony with your frequency. So that's why you're at the coffee shop and the only people you're seeing are the ones that end up being the jerks, because the ones that are at the higher frequency, your system isn't registering with your five senses.
Totally. Yeah, that helps people understand it, I think. And, I can even think back at when I started my coaching practice, and the kinds of clients that I attracted were very much in alignment with who I was at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to vet people properly. I would take on all of their problems as if they were mine. So I had a lot of codependency issues to work through.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little more about trauma, because we brought it up a few times. And I like that you distinguish between the big T and the little t traumas. And just some examples of little t traumas I can tell you from my own life. We moved around a lot. I had a father who had mental illness. I mean, those kinds of things. Parents fought all the time, didn't really tune into our feelings, and they didn't know how to take care of themselves well. So we were all kind of left to our own devices, and some of us did better than others.
Yeah.
But people who have a lot of trauma and trauma blocks, which most of us have some, and some inhibition, how can they begin to remove these blocks? Do you have like a specific exercise or a way that they can start to remove the blocks of trauma?
Yeah, I give a lot of exercises in the book, and it depends on the degree of trauma. I honestly think that the majority of the time, and I hate saying this because I wish every answer could be in the book of like, okay, just read this book and your trauma will be healed. But for most of us, we need that added support of a human, a trauma-informed person who can really support us through some of the healing. And for me, and I've been what my kids used to call a talking doctor. I've been a talking doctor for 30 years, but I would say over the past 15 to 20 years, especially when working with people with trauma, I don't do as much talking. I mean, there's certainly the talking part around understanding what happened and, reality testing, the guilt that, this was not your fault, and looking at some of the stories we carry and helping to understand how the trauma has affected you and what even just awareness takes you so far into the healing process. But the biggest piece of healing, I feel, which really does help you in a million ways, including sexually, is the somatic work, which is not so much about the brain and how we think about and remember what happened. That's the beginning part. But it's really about how it's held in the body. And that's what starts to manifest in our sexuality, right? Those times at which you're having sex and you disassociate, right? You lose time or you're not really there. Because that's what you learned with your trauma, perhaps especially if you had sexual trauma, it's the way you survive it is by leaving the building into, in your brain. You go somewhere else in your mind, and then you accidentally condition yourself, even if you're with a loved and trusted partner. Or maybe you're someone who, is learned to be, because you were a parentified child and you had to take care of your parent, or because your parent was really narcissistic or parents, and you had to like really take on their reality and fawn over them and compliment them in order to stay safe. And that's kind of become your MO. Maybe sexually, you are, without even realizing it, moving into this state where you are so much more focused on your partner's need and performing for them rather than having your own, simultaneous physical and emotional and sexual experience. So somatic therapy teaches you how to move into your body beyond all the ways we intellectualize ourselves. We can talk about trauma till we're blue in the face and not heal it. Because it's really held in the body. And when it comes to sex, that's when it starts to surface in the bedroom, especially. With lack of arousal, with anxiety, with shutting down, with difficulty reaching orgasm, with low desire. So I mentioned different techniques for beginning to practice some somatic awareness and how to move that energy through you and out of you of some of those feelings, which is really a big piece of what somatic experiencing does. And I also explain how to find a good somatic experiencing coach or therapist. But it's one of the most powerful ways I have found to address any kind of trauma, big T or little t trauma.
I agree. People say, well, how come I've been doing this therapy for so long and I still am stuck?
Yeah.
And there was somebody who came to me with that, and I said, find a somatic healer, a therapist who knows how to help you, because she was so disassociated in not just sexually, but in all parts of her life.
Yeah.
She
That's
would
usually the case.
smile when she was angry, and just not even aware that she was
Yeah.
always smiling. And yeah, there are signs, and it's been incredible to watch the changes in her. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I know somebody else who really struggled with relationships, and she did a lot of trauma work. She actually became a trauma therapist herself because she was so interested in this work, and she just found the love of her life.
Aw, sweet. Yeah, that's a
So
beautiful
yeah,
example of how healing really changes the game, not only in how we navigate and stay, and help create success in a relationship, so therefore can stay in relationship and take it to the next level, but it also, like I said, energetically, as we heal, our body's frequency rises. And we
yes,
then become a frequency match to a higher caliber of human who is also more healed or more conscious or more emotionally mature or intelligent emotionally. And it's the same thing even with friendships, as you were talking about clients, I had the same thing with friendships. Every friend I had 15, 20 years ago was a broken little bird, and everyone was always having this drama or ordeal or whatever. And I was everybody's therapist and everybody's helper and everybody's support until I totally got burned out for a million reasons and started doing my own healing work. And now I don't attract those people anymore. Um,
yes,
so my friend group is completely different. So
yeah,
it's just beautiful how it shifts and changes all aspects of your life as you're willing to really do the work. And you can
yeah,
stay stuck if you don't, everything for me, our bodies are um, our transmitters and our receivers are transceivers, right? We
mm,
are, so as we can start to become more embodied and as we can start to move those blocks out of our body and stay conscious in our body and attuned to our body and work with our body, not only are we more attuned to the world around us, get cues, get information, more intuitive, more attuned, more tapped in and tuned in, get downloads and awarenesses of things, but we also are capable of so much more pleasure.
yeah, yeah. And I want to say something else that happened with this person who fell in love is that the old her would have never dated him
Mhm.
because the list. And so he was just separated. He wasn't fully divorced yet. And he hadn't been through a lot of therapy, but he was a healthy person. And so most people would just say, don't even date that person. And they follow a bunch of rules that have nothing to do with them. The more you're tuned in to you, the
Mhm.
less you look to other people to guide you on every decision you make,
Yeah.
because you're making better choices from your own body, your own self, your own intuition, your own feeling of what's right for
Yeah,
yourself for the most
your
part.
inner wisdom, which we all have access to. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're disembodied, you're not really paying attention to any of that.
No.
Yeah, so there's so much more in the book. Is just incredible. So I encourage everybody to get it, pre-order it. I just want to ask you my final question, and then we're going to get to where people can get the book. I always ask everybody, what are your final words of advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date, Laura?
Ah, if you want to, yeah, I think really what I was saying earlier, I would really encourage you to get super clear, look at your list of qualities, characteristics, whatever. If you can, break it down to 5 instead of 25, but also really get clear. And you can go to my website or not, but just get really clear on maybe the top 3 ways you want to feel when you wake up next to that person every day and live with that person you're calling in for your last first date, that you are living from that place yourself as much as you can. You will see a huge difference in what first dates you go on, how those first dates go, and how quickly you really find your person. It is astounding how well it works.
Yeah, you'll definitely be manifesting a very different type of person when you do this work. Is there anything that I haven't asked you? Any last words that you would like to share?
No, this has been great. I'm grateful to be here and to share this book baby that I'm so excited to put out into the world.
Yeah, so you have a free gift for those who pre-order and buy Sex Magic. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, lots of free goodies. I'm excited about this. So when you get Sex Magic, and you can just go to drlauraberman.com/Sex Magic, you get my quantum sex course, which I think is 8 modules. It's usually like $137. You get that for free. You join me on July 8th. I'm doing a live event, a live Sex Magic initiation event. So we're going to be doing all kinds of cool things live. I'll be teaching you a lot of this stuff and answering questions. You get a Sex Magic ritual journal, which is really cool, that you can use as a companion to the book. And you also if you want to, you get entered into a raffle to win a free one-on-one session with me. I don't see a lot of clients anymore, so that's going to be really fun too.
Very special. Well, thank you so much. So people can find you there. You're all over the internet, and people can find you on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Laura. This has just been such a treat for me and for our audience. And I'm sure that the book is going to change a lot of lives and bring a lot of pleasure to the world.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
And thanks everybody for listening. If you love our show, please give us a high rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it, follow it. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.